Anna Rawson.
So the work here on show started from an initial very personal experience of dealing with breaking up a family home, a home we'd lived in for 42 years, and of returning to that space to deal with terminally ill parents. So it was about being there, confined in that space with my parents as their use of that space diminished. They used the whole house, then they could only use the bottom floor, then they were really only able to use one room, and then so it shrunk until they left the house. And then I'm left with the house full of their things that then I have to deal with as well. So it's really this transition of occupation, of how they filled the space with all their things over 40 years, and then their use of it shrunk and they leave, and then the objects take on, for a moment, they take on an extra significance, and then they also have to sort of be packed up and moved on. So really it's this idea of filling up and shrinking back out. It's a sort of a cycle of occupation and attachment to a building and a place. So really the ideas have come from patterns and light and the tree in the garden, which coincidentally died at the same time. And really what became the visual symbol for the whole experience was the light coming through the curtains and the shadows on the walls. When the house was completely empty, the kind of echo in that space, actually, that the objects had gone. And in the end, it wasn't many of the objects that were important, it was the actual feeling and the memory of the space. So what's left is a memory of the space that's now changed because the new people have changed it. So it's gone. I'll never go there again, and it's transformed into this sort of, I like to think of it almost as an untouchable space that's been trapped in here, and it's also in here. So really it involves memory and how memory is objects but also spaces and places, and it's about light, and it's about the symbol of a house but also the idea of stacking and filling and emptying. So nobody knows anybody else's memories, and they're all utterly unique, but they're also fleeting and temporary. They come and go. You get a glimpse, and is it the same? Is it the same each time? Does it change? I think obviously it does change, you know, as we change. And the idea that you can't, it is the idea of not being able to touch it. You can't go back there. It's non-physical. So the idea of making something physical and having something inside a physical object that you can see but not touch was really one of the qualities that glass, I think, really affords the idea. It really adds, for me, that sense. So really it did become about that, the untouchability of memory and the passing nature of it. But it's frozen as well. Here it's frozen, whereas in our own experience of it, it probably does change and alter. But the fundamentals of it is still there. So yes, untouchability and unreachability is quite important. The idea of objects, fragile objects, of them taking on associations that we cling to is quite important, but I think the conclusion I came to was that they are important for a while, and they become decreasingly so, the objects, for me personally, until there's a handful of them that are things that have been used or things that have been made by people you care about, actually. Things they've crafted or handled a lot become the most important. But in the end, I was left with the most significant sort of memory was a sensation of a particular day, of the way light fell. And for me, that's become the lasting memory of that place. And a handful of objects, I think, I'll keep with me to reinforce that. It was about light in the end. It was about the atmosphere. It was about the quietness of the space. It was about the moment and significant moments of two people being together in a place. And the things around us, yes, were important, but they will move on, actually, and only, like I said before, a couple will stay. But that moment, so light and the experience and the awareness of the moment was the driver.
And the noise of silence.
Yeah, it was profoundly quiet.
And yet that's such a big noise.
Yeah. Yes, big noise of the quiet. It was very significant. the quietness of those moments of sitting with the person I was caring for. So that is the profound layer, I think, at the heart of it all. And I wanted quietness, stillness, because it was very still. But it was light, it wasn't depressing, it wasn't morbid or macabre. It was just a gentle, intense quiet. And that relationship. And the person I had that moment with was a bit of a hoarder. So they had a very strong relationship to their stuff, which I then had to deal with. But my sense of that was with them and the space and the light. So finding a way to transform that sort of experience and catch it and deal with it is what I've been doing.